I am so pleased to be here and share a new practice with you. We are going to be doing a lovely heart opening practice today with some focus on our breaths and pranayama. And for our practice, you'll need a yoga blanket or something similar like a beach towel or even a throw blanket. And I do have my two lovely assistants with me today. We have Ollie, the baby dinosaur, and this is Bruiser, the Bruisosaurus Rex. So once you have your blanket or your towel, we're going to roll it up like this, like a little taquito, and we're going to put it at the back quarter of the mat like this. And then taking about where the ends of where your shoulder blades are, so the tips of the shoulder blades are going to rest on that edge of the blanket. So you kind of have to like shift around, maybe get lucky like I did and land in the perfect spot. And then gently release the rest of your body, your head, to rest onto the earth. And your arms are going to rest kind of on top. It's almost like the blanket is a shelf for your arms. And you can release your hands all the way out to the side like a T, or you can even cactus your arms, or maybe you have a baby dinosaur next to you and you can pet your baby dinosaur. And then legs can either stay bent like this, they can be long out in front of you, or if you want to get into the hips a little too, you can come into this butterfly pose, Baddha Konasana. Might feel good. And wherever you've landed, just begin to check in with the breath. I always like to start my practice with a check-in there. What's my breath doing? Because the breath will tell us what we need to know about what we're feeling and experiencing in this moment. And that will help us guide what it is our body might need in our practice or in life. So just noticing your inhales, the exhales, and in this slightly elevated position with the chest and the heart lifting up. Maybe the breath feels a little more pronounced in the chest. Or maybe you feel it somewhere else, and that's okay too. Just noticing where that is. Then start to scan the body. So just noticing from your feet coming all the way up to the top of your head. Just scan the body and notice if there's any tension. Maybe a place in your body that's active, that's holding on. And see if maybe you can let go a little bit. Maybe release that point of tension or activation. Let your body sink into the earth a little. Let the back of your heart really sink into the support of the prop underneath you. For our practice today, we're going to use equal parts breath. So finding a rhythm that you can follow for practice. Maybe it's 3 count inhale and a 3 count exhale. Maybe it's a little bit longer. Maybe it's a 4 or a 5 count. But try to pick something that you can use to sync the movement of our body with. And we don't have a really physical practice today, so there isn't a lot of movement, and most of it's holding. But when we do find movement, using the length of the inhale to guide the length of your movement and the length of the exhale to guide the next length of your movement. So I'll give you a moment to set up that equal part breath. Once you've got that breath pattern, we're going to gently roll over to the right side and just scoot that prop out from underneath you. And we're just going to rest on our side here for just a moment. Staying connected with our breath. Maybe noticing what that back space of the heart feels like right now. Open, the air on your back. Maybe there feels like more space there. Come on to your back. Reach your arms out to the side like a T. Bend your knees, plant your feet about hips distance apart, maybe a foot or two out in front of your hips. And we're just going to pause here for a moment. You can let your knees come in and rest together. And again, just noticing the space of the heart. how it feels now for the back to be resting on the earth without that prop. And did anything change in the front space of the heart? Does that feel any different? I don't know if you guys can hear, but my big dog is snoring so sweetly in my ear right now. In his sweet equal parts breath. Take an inhale, and on an exhale, with the length of the exhale of your breath, begin to let your knees fall over to the left. And breathe into that side body. And if this is uncomfortable, maybe that knee is floating too much, you can always take that blanket. It might be nice to like fold it, or maybe even keep in that taquito shape. You can even place that blanket between your legs and give your knee a little extra relief so the leg isn't working so hard to relax. You could also stagger the legs a little bit more, or even taking that left ankle, crossing it over onto the right knee, creating a little extra traction there. Just pulling the right knee forward and really elongating that right side body, increasing the sensation there. Sending your breath to the side body here. So tension and constriction in the body are often signs for attention to those areas. So in this twist, we're kind of constricting our sides and creating an awareness for our mind to bring attention to that area and to send the breath there. If you hooked that ankle on top of the thigh, or if you have any props, you can move those out of the way. And let the next length of your inhale bring your knees back up center. And just reset here for a moment, noticing if anything's changed or shifted in your body. Maybe one side might feel different than the other. Maybe one side is cool, one side is warm. And that's Bruiser. Thank you, buddy. He's making sure I know something's going on outside of the room. Take an inhale, and on your next exhale, let the length of the exhale guide the length of the movement. And drop your knees to the right. And any shifts or adjustments that you might need here, taking that blanket, making this position more comfortable, or crossing that ankle over thigh. And just honoring that each side is a little different, and what you need on one side may also be different on the other side. And just breathing here. When you're ready, on your next inhale, letting the length of the inhale guide the length of the movement, bringing your knees in towards center, pausing here, maybe letting your knees rest in, maybe walk the feet out a little to the edge of the mat. And just noticing how your body feels now. On your next exhale, roll over onto your side. Doesn't matter which side. We'll pause here for a moment. And just noticing what it feels like for the back space of the heart to be open. Does this feel any different than the first time when you came into this pose? And when you're ready, push yourself up to a seat. And we're going to come on to all fours for our tabletop. So knees stacked below hips and come to about hips distance apart. Shoulders are stacked over wrists, and your pointer finger is pointing toward the top edge of your mat and pressing firmly into your hands. All 10 fingers pressed into the mat. Draw your navel up and in toward your spine. And then just check back in with that breath pattern here. We're going to hold tabletop just for a few cycles of breath to connect here, connect with the body, connect with the breath. Make sure you're lifting out of your shoulders. You're not sinking or dumping in here. With that navel drawn in toward the spine, we're going to keep the core engaged. Now, it doesn't have to be the tightest, most active core engagement, but we do want to stay connected with what's happening in the abdomen and in the front body. So if you can find some lift out of the shoulders, so pressing, maybe feeling some engagement in the chest, in the pecs, and then drawing that navel in. And on an inhale, begin to tilt your hips toward the sky, drop your belly slightly, still maintaining engagement, and lifting your heart forward for this cow pose. We'll hold this for a couple rounds of breath just to get a sense of all of the activation in this pose and what's happening in the body. So making sure our hands are pressed firmly into the mat, heart is reaching forward, gaze is maybe a couple of feet out in front of you on the floor. Avoid dumping in the low back. So the arch in the spine is probably very gentle, very mild. Keeping that belly drawn in, reaching the tailbone to the sky. If you have sensitivity in the knees, I meant to recommend this earlier, you can take that blanket and unfold it, maybe fold it in half or in quarters, and you can place that underneath your knees. Noticing your heart in this pose. See if you can find it's beating in your chest. Might be a challenge. And then on your next exhale, tilt the tailbone down, round the spine. Allow your head to drop down, tucking the chin, coming into this cat pose. We'll hold this here for a few more rounds of breath. Lifting out. Let the crown of the head be heavy. And noticing here how the heart feels in the back. Sending the breath there. And using your breath to guide the next few rounds of movement. We'll inhale for cow. Exhale for cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Do that 2 more times. Your rhythm of breath. Hugging in that front body and toward the spine. Everything is active. And coming to neutral. And shift your hips back on top of your feet. Let your belly drape forward over your thighs. Release your head to the earth. Enjoy this child's pose.
Maybe noticing new sensations in the body. Maybe your shoulders got a little bit of work in that pose, in those last couple poses. Maybe even your core feels a little more fired up. And again, just checking in with the heart. On your next inhale, shift back up to tabletop. Walk your hands out, maybe another foot. You can kind of play around with how far out you want to reach. We're going to come into puppy pose. So walking the hands out and then letting the chest reach down toward the earth. Allowing the forehead to rest on the mat. And keep the arms active and engaged here, and avoid like hunching or hugging the shoulders in toward the ears. So we want this to be a somewhat active but gentle pose, resting the forehead on the earth, keeping the navel drawn in. And imagine your heart is heavy, like a granite stone. And the weight of that heart is pulling your chest toward the earth. So maybe you get a little more activation and pulling the heart toward the earth. Stay connected to the breath here. Equal part inhale, equal part exhale. When the breath is calm, the mind is calm. And when we can calm the breath and calm the mind, we can ease the heart. Next inhale, you can begin to rise back up, walking your hands in, and just taking pause here in that tabletop, checking in with the shoulders, maybe noticing the heart. And let's shift our hips back one more time for another child's pose. And this time we'll release the arms down by our side. So let the shoulders be heavy, the backs of the hands resting on the earth. Enjoy the blood flow, the release in the shoulders here. Noticing maybe the rhythm of your heart. When you're ready, reach your arms out in front of you. We're just going to slide forward onto our bellies and releasing the forehead to the mat. Let the tops of your feet rest onto the mat. And then bring your hands to your sides, to about where your ribs are, your low ribs. Begin to draw in your elbows to meet one another. So finding a slight activation here. Pressing the tops of your feet into the mat. On an inhale, begin to rise up, reaching your heart forward. Hold this for a couple of breaths. Using your hands for balance, but see if you can use the strength of your upper back to create this movement, to open up the heart. Draw those elbows in toward one another. Imagine if I came and tied a little ribbon, hooking your elbows. Press those feet into the mat. On your next exhale, release it all back down. And we're going to do that 3 more times, but using the breath to guide the movement. So on an inhale, the length of the breath brings you up. And your exhale, the length of the exhale brings you down. 2 more times, drawing those elbows in together, coming up. Exhale brings you back down. Inhale, rise up. Exhale brings you back down. Beautiful. We're going to shift back to child's pose one more time here. Choosing whatever arm variation you might like. If you like arms reaching out in front of you, you can keep that. If you wanted to let them rest along your sides, maybe hooking your hands around your heels. Just pausing here. On your inhale, come up to your knees. Taking your hands, placing them on your low back for some support. And your feet can be either tucked or untucked here. I kind of like the stabilization of having my toes tucked. Knees are about hips distance apart. This helps us with balance. And letting your hands gently guide your hips forward. Grow tall in your spine. Draw your chin in toward your chest a little bit. So the crown of the head is reaching toward the sky. I'm just going to pause here for a moment. Checking in with that breath. How does that heart feel? Leaning forward. Take an inhale, fill up your lungs. And on your exhale, begin to slowly arch the top section of your back, so that thoracic area. We're just going to hold this for a couple of rounds of breath. So heart is reaching toward the sky. You're pushing your hips forward. Using the breath to calm the mind and to ease the heart. On your next inhale, come back up to center. Maybe release your arms. Maybe wiggle out your hips a little bit. Coming onto all fours sounds good. Maybe rounding out the spine a little. Just finding a little bit of release from our camel pose. And we're going to do that 3 more times, but again incorporating movement with breath. So placing hands on your low back, begin to shift your hips forward. Take an inhale, reach your heart to the sky. Exhale, come back to neutral. Inhale, reach your heart to the sky. Exhale, come back to neutral. Inhale, last one, like there's a ribbon tied to that heart, lifting it to the sky. Exhale, come back to neutral. And we're actually going to release all the way down onto our backs. Draw your knees in toward your chest. And draw your forehead into your knees. Maybe wrapping your arms, your hands around your shins. Just coming into this little ball. Experiment with rocking side to side. Maybe massaging out your back a little bit. Releasing that, letting your feet come onto the earth, extending your legs out long for the length of the mat. Reach your arms up overhead, let your palms rest on the earth behind you, and begin to walk your feet toward the left corner of your mat. And then begin to walk your arms to the top left corner of the mat. Left hand can clasp around your right wrist or on your elbow, whatever is more comfortable. And then option for your feet, you can cross left ankle over right, or experiment and try right ankle over left. But pick an option that feels good. So breathing into the sides here. Checking in with the breath. Checking in with your heart. Your next inhale, come back to center, uncrossing feet, letting go of your arm, pausing in center. Noticing the difference in your sides. And when you're ready, walk your feet toward the right corner of the mat, and then walk your arms to the top right corner. And then taking those arm options again, honoring that both sides, each side is different. So crossing maybe your left ankle over right, right ankle over left, and whatever arm variation feels good. Cross your legs, let go of your arms, and coming back to center. Take your right hand, place it over your heart, and your left hand just below your navel on your belly. Let your legs come out at least the width of your mat. If you would like to take them out a little wider, that's perfectly fine, whatever feels good. But let your feet splay out to the sides. And let your right hand connect with the rhythm of your heart. Let your left hand connect with the rhythm of your breath. So feeling your belly rise and fall with your breath, with your inhales, with your exhales. And if your eyes aren't closed already, go ahead and close them now. And begin to, you can set your gaze toward your third eye. So you're kind of looking up and toward the center, imagining the space between your brows. So the heart is this kind of fulcrum of where our physical experiences balance with our mental, emotional, and ethereal experiences happen. So, for example, when we are excited about something, our heart can beat a little faster with excitement. So that's the physical sensation that we're feeling about that emotional experience. Or maybe there's even anxiety or fearful. So the heart races, the breath becomes irregular. And that's
the balance of the physical experience with an emotional one. So when we use the breath to find calm and peace, it helps regulate the rhythm of the heart and also helps regulate the rhythm of whatever experience we're having in life, good or bad. You are welcome to keep your hands as they are if that feels comfortable. Otherwise, I'll invite you to bring your hands to your sides. Let the backs of your hands rest on the earth. Begin to nestle in your shoulders, letting go of that gaze to your third eye if you're still holding that. Do one final scan of the body here, looking for any tension, looking for any places where we're holding on. You can send the breath to those places and maybe let go. Take one final big deep inhale. Open mouth, exhale. Let it go. And relax in these next few moments for Shavasana. Please feel free to continue to rest. Your body is asking for rest. When you're ready, you can roll to a side, come up to a seat, and maybe bringing hands to our center and reflecting on your practice. We are blessed with so many sensations in the body. And the body is truly this amazing tool to experience and navigate life. And I think two of the greatest tools that we have
are in the heart, which help us guide love for ourselves and for others. And the other tool is the magic of this breath. And with every inhale, we're drawing in life and energy. And it's our heart that circulates that life and that energy in our bodies. I think that's pretty magical. So it is an honor to share this practice with you. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. The light in me sees and honors the light in all of you. Namaste.